Hello and welcome to Leicester Politics on AIG Media Pro. I am Adeyinka Igbinoba. Counting down to the general elections, where Nigerians will come out en masse to decide their faith on who their number one man should be. There have been several candidates coming out making promises. But of them all, there is one most controversial candidate, who is Omoyele Sowore, the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Yes, there has been a whole lot of talks about your personality.
Yes.
Of them all, majority of the electorate thinks you were, if not the main person, but you were among the people that projected this current government, that is General Muhammadu Buhari, using your platform Sahara Reporters, then 2015, telling electorate that this is the man. Why the change?
Oh, it's
Or can we say it's a wrong impression?
it is a wrong impression. Sahara Reporters has been around for 12 years.
Okay.
We're going to 13 years now in 2019, and it has a singular purpose, which is to just end the abuse of power in Nigeria. And we do so by exposing corruption. We break some of the biggest political stories. We do investigative reports. And in all of this, there's always the beneficiaries, the Nigerian people. And what happened in 2015 was an escalation of that role to ensuring there are free and fair elections in the country, 2015. And prior to that, there were a lot of corruption going on in the country and a lot of trials to validate our position. So many of the trials that are going on happened because of the investigative reporting we did. I have challenged people time and time again to point to me one video in which I recommended someone to vote for Buhari. Nobody could produce it. An editorial in which anybody was asked to vote for Buhari. I'm not talking about personal opinion written by writers on the platform or comments. None could point to one. But don't forget that it was the same Sahara Reporters that helped the previous government, the previous president, to come to power when his principal, Omar Yaradua, was sick in Saudi Arabia. And a lot of manipulation going on. Even members of the People's Democratic Party, judges, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President were all aiding and abetting that fraud of Yaradua's sickness. Sahara Reporters exposed the sickness of Yaradua, the fact that he was not going to recover and that he was brain dead. And that helped to prepare Nigeria for a Jonathan presidency. So what we did after that was to continue doing what we do. So if Buhari benefited from it, and became president, how do you blame Sahara Reporters for it? The person who is singularly responsible for making it possible for Buhari to be president is President Goodluck Jonathan.
Okay.
Because of his woeful performance in office, the corruption that became the order of the day under his government, and the people that voted for Buhari and not even Sahara Reporters staff.
Okay, now let's look at
Nigerians who rejected Jonathan. And just so to buttress that, what did we resume doing after Buhari came to power? We started doing what we do. And today, Buhari's people are as antagonistic to Sahara Reporters as Jonathan's people are. So that tells you something about our character.
Okay, let's look at the character of Omoyele Sowore.
Yes.
Back in the days, unionism, activism and everything. People are thinking that you might have experience in unionism, but the number one top job in Nigeria is different from unionism.
No,
and they think Sowore does not have that experience to govern over 180 million people.
So when you talk about experience, what are they talking about? Experience is something that shows that you've done a job before and you'll be better at doing the job. So who should have been the best experienced president in Nigeria's history? They would have been former president. We should have been electing only former presidents. And we have done two of that now, two of those people. And where did they leave you? Like this broken and broke country, a country that is in tatters, divided, a country that is in a state of poverty, starvation, and almost utter destruction. That is what experienced people did to Nigeria.
Now, what is Omoyele Sowore bringing to calm all this?
So I'm bringing real experience as a fighter, because this country needs a fighter to fight for the rights of its people to have social and economic and political freedom. And that's what every country has done. They vote for experienced people depending on their need. And I have been involved in every political action in this country that's taking Nigeria in the right direction, starting from 30 years ago, 1989. That's experience. When you don't talk about the experience of an untainted person, experience of a capable person, experience of integrity, experience of exposure, of real education, and experience of having done things that worked. And this included my starting point as a student union leader up to the point where I became an entrepreneur. Starting Sahara Reporters, I became one of the biggest media companies in Nigeria. But let me take you to how experienced countries choose their leaders.
Okay.
Maybe what we need is to be experienced in choosing our leaders and
Okay.
not be looking for failed experiences. When it happened to them in South Africa, who did they choose when they ended apartheid? They chose an experienced fighter, Nelson Mandela, who had been sitting in jail for 27 years. Nelson Mandela was never a local government chairman. He was never a governor of the province. Barack Obama, when he became the president of the U.S., he was in his 40s, I think 46 or thereabout. He had only been a senator for about 6 months or thereabout.
And that is experience.
What experience is that, compared to my own experience? But when Barack Obama was coming to president, nobody even considered this experience as a senator as experience. They used to refer to him as a community organizer.
Okay.
That was how he was described. And they ridiculed him for that. The same way some people claim that the only experience I have is student union leadership, which is wrong. What I'm saying here is that, you need leaders who have will, who have competence, and we don't have any one of those. You need leaders who can make things happen for this country. I often say, and I'll repeat to you, yes, that these other guys have experience. It's true. They have experience in stealing. They're great experienced thieves. So many of them are very well experienced, nepotists, tribalists. They are very good, very experienced at dividing people. They have experience in bigotry. I don't have any one of those experiences. So, and if that's what people want to go with, they are free to do so.
If you look at the situation of the country now,
yes.
For a while we've been battling with the economy.
Yes.
So now the question is, what is AAC or what is Omoyele Sowore going to do about the Nigerian economy?
So
fine, they've come to tell us we are now out of recession. I don't know how true that is.
I'm not. Look, by the time they were talking about recession, we had already entered an economic depression.
Okay, so
the way to revive the economy of Nigeria is to do the rudimentary things upon which an economy can grow in the first place. And that is why we have come with a comprehensive program of security, power. There's no economy where you cannot provide electricity for cottage industries.
But let's look at the security.
Okay. Yes, security. But when people can feel safe within the country or carry out their activities, people can go to sleep at night. Security would improve power. Power will also improve security. Wherever think about infrastructure, we don't even have any particular highway in Nigeria that can run for 30 kilometers without hitting a major bomb or a crater or something that could kill you. You move on to corruption. You know how it is. Everybody is stealing whatever they can in this country. So without blocking the loopholes, without creating, the basis for an economic system that can provide jobs for people, that can give them great income, you are wasting your time. And that is why we started with the acronym SPICER HEAT,
Okay.
which is security, power infrastructure, anti-corruption, an economic system that works for all, restructuring health, education, agriculture, and tourism. That's a starting point for us, and that we have to do all of this pari passu. That is, all of them are working together to bring Nigeria, to make Nigeria, help Nigeria climb out of poverty, this state of penury, and an utterly terrible economic system that we're in.
Let me put you on a hold there.
Yes.
You're watching Leicester Politics on AIG Media Pro, and we've been having an engaging discussion with Omoyele Sowore, who is the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. Please stay with us. Welcome back, still on Leicester Politics, and we have Omoyele Sowore with us. Let's look at minimum wage.
Yes.
There has been a lot of talks. The current administration says they are actually battling with 30,000.
Yeah.
And you are saying if you assume office, nothing is stopping you from taking it into 100,000.
That's correct.
Majority of the electorate, people think it's just fallacy, that it's not achievable.
I don't think it's majority of electorates. We have to correct that impression.
Okay.
There's people I call Facebook economists that are saying that it will cause inflation because they don't understand. But now they are disappearing one after the other when they are confronted with the facts of our ability to pay workers a living wage. I'm not for minimum wage. Minimum wage is a legally allowed amount of money you can pay to a worker. I'm for a living wage that becomes minimum wage, it becomes law. And what I'm saying is that even 100,000 naira minimum wage for a worker in Nigeria is very low, but that's a starting point for us to climb quickly from that. South Africa just did it. And we are the ones out here saying that our economy is the biggest on the continent of Africa. South Africa just increased minimum wage across board to the equivalent of 126,000 naira per worker per month. But what I contrast it with is what the top echelon of political leaders are picking as take-home pay on a monthly basis. And the comparison is simple. If you're paying somebody 30,000 naira per month, for him or her to make the monthly salary, the monthly allowance of a senator, they have to work for 38 years. Go and do the calculation. Is that fair? So the people who are saying they can't afford to pay minimum wage, their take-home pay per month is unconscionable. Go and find out how much an average governor squanders. I'm just coming down the street. Ondo State governor is staying down the street in a hotel. On the outside, there are about 20 cars waiting to fuel those cars alone just to bring a governor from Akure to Lagos. It's not going to cost less than maybe 2 million naira. You're not talking about the hotel costs, and some of the, slush funds they carry around. What we need to do is to pay people who are working minimum wage and, stop paying people who are not working maximum wage.
Okay.
That's what we need to do in this country. And the question most people ask is, where do you get the money? And I have defined it. So many of the statistics are around with us. You can find it in newspapers. The Federal Inland Revenue Service just said it generated 5.7 trillion naira. Customs generated over 1.7 trillion naira this last year, according to them officially. What is the annual budget of Nigeria? Annual budget of Nigeria is 8.8 trillion naira. So between customs and
they've made
close to that. You haven't added JAM, you haven't added EFCC. NNPC brings in about 7 trillion naira by itself. That's oil alone every year. So we already have excess. But this is what I would do so that I don't stop there. The tax rate in Nigeria is the lowest in the West African region of Africa. It's about 7%. Ghana is 15%. If we increase our tax rate, which means we are not increasing tax, we're just collecting taxes from all these big people who are not paying taxes.
So are we going to have different tax level?
No, we're just collecting what we're entitled to.
Okay.
And we will reach, within a year, we'll reach 8 trillion from taxes alone. I'll be able to pay for the budget. I'm telling you that. Because as president of Nigeria, you can't come to me and say, oh, help me intervene with the tax collector. And we're not doing that. You should go and pay your taxes because that's what you deserve. Because most of the taxes they refuse to pay to the federal post, they've already deducted from workers. This same underpaid workers. This is the kind of problem we have in this country. But this is the reason why I said, you need leaders who understand how society works.
Let's look at corruption.
Yes.
And the absence of consequences.
Yes.
Taking us back to the judiciary. There has been a lot of your interviews where you said corrupt leaders are going to be jailed, you are going to do this, you are going to do that. And we are wondering, is Sowore going to be a dictator?
No, I'm just saying that. I'll give you an example, or several examples.
Because you can't do this on your own, even as the number one man.
Yes. Something happened in the last few months, politically. There's a former governor of Akwa Ibom State who was officially accused of stealing about 27 billion naira. He joined the APC. We're not talking about him, right? There's the governor of Abia State, former governor of Abia State, Ojus Okalu. He's even declared wanted by the FCC because they gave him a pass to go for treatment somewhere in Germany. He came back. He was at APC rally yesterday, shielded officially. So what I'm saying is that the moment you allow this kind of relationship to happen, you are already interfering with the judiciary. Because judicial officers are also human beings. When they see that someone is close to the president, in our own African setting, they have some level of reverence and caution that they apply. So I'm just saying that there will be 3 levels of fighting corruption. There will be prevention so that people don't even have a chance to steal. And in case they do, there will be enforcement to ensure that if you steal before you get too far, we push it away from you. And the last will be consequences. The consequences part is the jailing part. It's written in our laws that if you steal certain amount of money, you're supposed to go to jail, but we are not implementing them. The president of the country belongs to the executive branch, and the executive is the executor of our laws. So it's part of the job of the president, who is the appointer of judges, to ensure that he appoints judges who would do this, do justice to criminals. That's what you're hearing from me. It's a very broad and basic understanding of how the system works. I'm not going to be going around catching people to put in jail, but I can at least make sure that people who should be in jail are not hanging out with me, in Aso Rock.
Let's look at funding. Funding is a major issue, especially in Nigeria politics.
Yes.
Where is Sowore getting funds?
It's very open, transparent, and raising funds through 2 broad areas. I'm doing crowdfunding through GoFundMe. And
Okay.
You can find that out by just logging to gofundme.com/Sowore2019. I've raised over $125,000 from mostly Nigerians in diaspora.
From people who believe that Sowore is the man.
Yes.
So let's take, for instance, if Sowore doesn't win the election, what happens?
I don't imagine that we won't win this election.
What happens if you don't?
If that happens to be the case, we'll find out. But I've run a transparent and open electioneering process. I've traveled to 33 states in Nigeria, and I'm going to do more before the end of the electioneering campaign process. And there's nobody out there who will not testify to that, the fact that we are probably the only political party campaigning across Nigeria. Not even the big behemoth political parties, APC and PDP, can go to the kind of places we go to. They do what we call parachute campaign. You go to the stadium, pay people to meet you there. You bring in musicians, they sing, you wave at them, and then you leave. That's not campaigning. We go to the people, we go to markets, we go to schools, churches, mosques, we go to traditional palaces. We go to meet people where they are. The other day we went to Makurdi for our own rally, which we call Revolution Now. And then before we started the rally, we went to the bank of the Benue River and met people, ordinary people there, poor people, kids who would have loved to be in school who are instead selling gravels for peanuts, and interacted with them. And we, through that, understand the problems. Nobody is doing that, and that is why we cannot envisage not winning. It will be massive loss in Nigeria.
Finally and quickly, Sowore, let's look at your plan, your presidency plan for the youth.
Young people need 2 things. that I think can give them the liberation they need. They need education and they need jobs.
Okay.
And with that, they can have social security for themselves. They can grow their families. They can travel. They can be innovative. They can do everything they want. They can have a broad future, and that's why we're making heavy investment in education for us, starting from primary school or kindergarten till college. We are even making promises to not only invest in higher or tertiary institutions, but that will pay study leave to students. I mean, study allowances to students. That is up to 200,000 naira per year. That's 2 semesters, and
How achievable are all this?
it's achievable. The money, look, I was watching a former central bank, deputy governor of central bank, Kingston Mogalu. He was at a town hall meeting. He said something that was shocking to me because they never admit that when they're in office. Now, there's a lot of money in Nigeria. It's just that people are stealing them, people are hiding them, people are misappropriating and misdirecting them. This is what we've always said. They are the ones who see the back end of how much money we make. So it's achievable. We've done all our budgeting, we looked at where money could come from. And after doing all of this transparently and faithfully, there'll still be enough to apply elsewhere. So it's just in terms of job provision, we're looking at 5 million jobs, and we've been specific. We have been specific about it. That from growing electricity from 3,000 megawatts to 24,000 alone, 2 million jobs will come from that. From the agricultural revolution we want to do, about 700,000 jobs will come from that. Building 17 million units of housing, there will be nothing less than 2 million jobs. You're talking about education, 200,000 teachers we want to hire, health sector, 160,000 people to be hired. So we are not going to be doing, empower, trader money type of, social service. We want to
Do you have something against trader money?
Of course I do. It's
Which is?
bribery money. What is the meaning of trader money? It's MMM. Yes. It's just to bribe voters because it's election time.
That's all for now on Let's Talk Politics. We've been having an intriguing discussion with Omoyele Sowore, the presidential candidate of African Action Congress. I'm Adeyinka Igbonoba. Join us next time. Bye-bye.